Are we recording now?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's 5 o'clock. Carla Weissel has filled out a public comment.
Okay, Carla Weissel, Beecher, Illinois. I have many concerns with the discussions at the Finance Committee meeting on October 18, 2021. At 30 minutes, Finance Chairperson Pallmeyer stated, quote, "You spent $8,000 for a Bobcat statue as a project," unquote. Then a chuckle. Mrs. Pallmeyer continued, quote, "Sitting right here
I'm going to
looking at
pause you. This
quote.
needs to be according to this committee.
Yes.
Is your comment about the facility committee or finance? Because it has to be about facilities if you're here
Facilities, this is what we're
speaking.
in right now.
Are you stopping me from making my public comment?
If you are going to speak about a financial committee meeting, you need to do that either at the regular board meeting or financial committee. If you are going to refer to the facilities
I think
or anything on the
finance-
facility agenda, then you may.
The finances definitely affect the facilities committee. So if you're stopping me, I'll just put it on your OMA. You've got long.
No, we can absolutely pause and we can
Because
pull up policy
I'm pretty
right now
sure-
to make sure that we are following it.
We're in a facilities committee, not a finance.
Yes.
I'm talking about, when did you discuss this, on finance? Okay. Well, you have a lot of money then? Your deficit spending $1.8 million. So are you guys stopping me from talking right now?
Again, I'm going to clarify, if you are going to speak on facilities, then you are welcome to. If you're going to talk about things and comments from the financial meeting that doesn't have to do with facilities, then no.
So you feel like none of this finance?
I don't know what you're going to say,
has
Ms.
anything to do-
Weissel, but if it's going to continue on quoting the financial committee
I
and
have
not
a lot
about
of quotes on
facilities.
here. I have a lot of quotes on here, which goes back to the facilities and the money problem.
Okay, if
that
you could
have.
keep it focused on the facilities that we are talking
I
about that is on the
don't know
agenda.
I don't know what you're going to consider as part of focus on the facilities.
Well, you've been
when
on the
it's
board before, so I
all-
think that you are aware of what would be on the agenda today and what you might say that has to do with the facilities.
I'm gonna take this as that you stopped me from making a public comment.
No, you're
absolutely
not going to,
That's a
because
false-
then-
That's a false
Continue.
statement.
Yeah.
You can continue as long as it's pertaining to
Yeah.
facilities.
Say what you would like, as long as it is pertaining to
That's-
facilities,
it's-
please.
It's not, I can't get any more, I can't break that down any more than I can.
Okay, so you're on record with that, making sure that everything I say has to do with, the Bobcat statue, which you voted for, is a facility issue.
No, it's
As your
not.
complaint.
That's financial.
The Bobcat statue is something that's under facilities.
Okay.
That was,
Dr. Gamer, are we gonna continue to argue about this, or what's going on?
I'm
There's no
actually the
problem.
board president, so the point of order would be to me. So again, if you would like to continue with anything that has to do with facilities, go ahead.
How much time do I have right now?
I'm gonna go back to where we were at 4:30, so hold on one second.
Okay, I'm making a definite note of this. You definitely, I'm not sure where you feel that this is appropriate, so.
Well, then
you
let's pause the
definitely-
whole thing, Carla, and we're gonna pull up policy, because I wanna make sure that you're not putting anything out there that is incorrect, okay?
Okay.
If you would like to have a seat until we look up the specific policy, thank you. I'm pulling it up. That's what I'm doing. I want to make sure. Public comment, there's no. said 200. Okay, thank you, sir.
There's a lot of exhibits on 2220.
Yes, there are.
Okay, I'm going to quote the policy, okay? At each regular and special open meeting, members of the public and district employees may comment to or ask questions of the Board of Education subject to reasonable constraints. The individuals appearing before the board are expected to follow these guidelines. Address the board only at appropriate time as indicated on the agenda when recognized by the board president. Identify oneself and be brief. Ordinarily, comments may be limited to 3 minutes. For regular board meetings, in unusual circumstances and when an individual has made a request in advance to speak for a longer period of time, the individual may be allowed to speak for more than 3 minutes. At board committee meetings, public comment will be available at the beginning, at the end, with a 5-minute time limit. Observe the board's president's decision to shorten public comment to conserve time and give the maximum number of individuals an opportunity to speak. And 4, observe the board president's decision to determine procedural matters regarding public participation not otherwise covered in board policy. Where was the one I was just reading? Conduct oneself with respect and civility. Where was the one I was just reading? According to the agenda, where was that?
That's number 1.
Number 1, yeah, it was. Sorry. Address the board only at the appropriate time as indicated on the agenda and recognized by the board president. As that one is the one that I was referring to when it comes to the agenda.
That policy 2230.
Mm-hmm.
Not this letter, this thing.
Okay, well, I mean, at this point, yeah. And then I will consult our legal for the future matters, just in case this becomes an issue. All right, so we are at 4 minutes, 30 seconds.
Wow, how embarrassing. Carla Weitzel, how embarrassing for you.
Excuse me, point of order. You cannot be disrespectful to any member on the board, but thank you.
I'm not sure where I left off. Mrs. Pallmeyer, on May 10th, 2021, you voted yes to the purchase of the Bobcat statue not to exceed $8,000. If you had an issue with the Bobcat statue's purchase, as you alluded to on October 18th, 2021, why did you go along with the purchase and not state any concerns? Instead, at 1 hour and 7 minutes into the recording on May 10th, 2020, when you voted for the Bobcat statue, you made a not funny joke about getting a Bobcat suit for the junior high school.
No.
Finance Committee Chair Pallmeyer also noted on October 18th, 2021, at the Finance Committee meeting that's it's 29 minutes, as she has done at other times, that there was deficit spending previous to when she was on the board. Quote, when I left the board is when it started going south, unquote. Mrs. Pallmeyer, when the previous board deficit spent, the money was always earmarked for projects. I remember voting for large asbestos removal phases being incorporated, resurfacing the high school driveway, and considerable technological upgrades, both in software and the district became one-on-one in technology for their students, which was in time for the pandemic remote learning requirements. In stark contrast, in the 2021 fiscal year, the deficit is projected to spend, the district is projected to deficit spend close to $2 million, $1.8 million specifically according to the August 3rd, 2021 superintendent's report, which I FOIA'd. What would be annually for almost entirely fixed costs. That is the difference, Finance Chairperson Pallmeyer on August 30th, 2021 at 21 minutes is quoted saying, quote, I was just as shocked with the $1 million deficit on the proposed budget, unquote. Mrs. Bell stated at the Finance Committee meeting at 50 minutes on October 18th, 2021, quote, instead of 5 years, we're out of money in, we're out of money in 7 or 8 years, unquote. This explains the continual math problem that seems to arise on the Finance Committee. Finance Chairperson Mrs. Pallmeyer said, Mrs. Bell, who is also on the Finance Committee, you are almost $2 million deficit spending annually, not $1 million, and that's generally for fixed costs, not to upgrade the facilities as the previous boards have done. With only having about maybe $5.5 million left after this HVAC project for only 2 schools, you do not even have 3 years until you have zero money left with the very large deficit fixed cost spending now, not 5, 7, or 8 years, as Mrs. Belt was saying. I also have other concerns with the October 18th Finance Committee meeting. At 26 minutes when Mrs. Ashley Belt on the Finance Committee stated you can, this is all related to facilities, quote, save $1 million by taking AC off, but we lose $631,000 for that. So really we're having $400,000, unquote. Mrs. Belt, what grant are you referring to that you can only use for HVAC? Mrs. Bell, I also listened to the GRP Wegman presentations. The boilers are entangled into the room air conditioning units. How did you arrive at the conclusion that the boilers are $5 million and the AC is $1 million at the Finance Committee meeting on October 18, 2021? Note the facilities connection. Also note the GRP is reusing some of the same system. It is not an all-new system. After this, there will still be partially old boiler system in place that eventually will need to be replaced. Furthermore, I would like to hear more discussions about how much money this board would like to keep in reserve. Dr. Gaines stated on August 30th, 2021 at the board retreat at 18 minutes that this, quote, takes you down to 3-star instead of a 4-star, unquote. Please share with the community how much money the board would like to keep in reserve, because through a FOIA request, I obtained the principal's wish list in March 2021. There are 44 projects on the list, which this HVAC for the elementary and high school would take care of a few of them. It doesn't even include the junior high school, who would also then like air conditioning according to the principal's list, which the board didn't even obtain a quote. And the rest of the boiler system being reused.
Thank you. Okay. Welcome. So we are going to be talking about the HVAC contract.
So as I sent you the email there, it's basically in your guys' hands. You guys have talked to GRP, you've talked to Scott, you've talked to all of their representatives. You know what the project entails. The big sticking point between the two sides is that Section 4. And Section 4 is specific to stipulated savings. So, as I told our law firm, or your law firm, not mine, sorry, your law firm, and I told GRP, I will explain both sides, and then that way it's a neutral party. I'm not one way or another. So in Section 4, stipulated savings, when they provide you when legislation is written, it says that you must stipulate that over a 20-year time span, you will save the cost of the project. So in this case, it's 5.8 and some change. So when GRP came and did their energy savings, they included operational savings into that. So your energy savings over the 20 years is that left-hand column that I showed you, and that's $35,000, yes, $33,000. And the right side is the operational savings. And according to GRP, that is the cost of maintaining, improving, replacing current things that are in place that you won't have to, because instead you've done the money up front. That's what your operational savings are. I'm not buying a boiler in 5 years because it's already been taken care of today. So that part of the project is part of the operational savings. Just for reference, GRP did FOIA one of our contracts, one of our performance contracts for 2016, and that was part of the 2016 contract that was approved. So I don't precision
So it's
did
been
that
past
one.
practice.
There has been a contract that you guys have accepted before, yes. Well, the Board of Education has accepted. That was a lighting at the high school. They used operational costs with energy savings. What Izzo and the law firm is saying that you should not, and you cannot include operational savings when it comes to stipulated savings because it's kind of, it's not a legitimate statement. You need to show, according to them, that your savings comes from the use of the equipment or the energy savings of it. So when I brought that to Scott, he said it's impossible to show anything in the world a $5.8 million savings in energy over any time span, let alone 20 years. The law firm says then we need to relook at it. Then you need to change the terminology. And that's where they ended. So I talked to both sides. I said, now I work for the board, the lawyers work for the board. We're going to present it to the board the way the GRP said, because obviously GRP is not going to change their verbiage to, you're going to save $5.8 million in energy savings. And so Graham's actually the lawyer that I was talking to. He understands that, and that's where we're at. So that's the big hiccup right now.
So basically, GRP is saying that this is more of the norm, and that these school districts with all their contracts have followed with that, and explaining the difference. And also, I'm echoing just what you said about it being impossible to show it like that without those operational savings.
Yes, and I believe Scott also included a few contracts in that email that I forwarded along to you all that have the exact same terminology.
Yeah, those were the highlighted
So-
ones.
Yeah.
In a different color.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you say this HVAC, and I read this, and you know, I listened to it because I couldn't make it. But when you look at new schools, $25 million a building, right? You're looking at $5.8 million to do HVAC, right? And a lot of people are here air conditioning. A lot of people don't understand we don't have ventilation.
Right.
And our
Okay, so if you take
boilers are
$25 million and you take off $5,800,000, okay, for what this project's going to, correct? Okay, you're saving $19,200,000 over the lifetime. So either you want to build or you want to fix the problems that we have now. I'm sorry guys, I could not be here to say
Okay.
this a few times, but,
So that's one new school.
yeah, correct.
Now, and what's so important too, like, I want to discuss the whole, like, any thoughts left on the project itself too, like that. So what first I want to talk about is the settling this contract issue, okay? Because while I understand the lawyers are saying this, and I'm not saying that we don't know more than the lawyers, what I'm saying is that GRP is saying, from their construction standpoint, that this is the norm in a contract, right? And to understand the difference here is to understand construction, which we are not in construction. But whether or not this is a norm of contracts in construction to include operational savings or cost into their complete savings, right? So that's what we have to understand. And what we're having is somebody who's been in the business and done all of these contracts and how this works, and working with state legislation and everything, saying that this is what has been accepted by the state, by everything, right? So what we have to decide first is if we are going to agree with that and understand that this would be a construction norm or not. This is, like, that's where we have to decide first.
Well,
Did you have a question?
I'm a little confused on.
Yeah, go ahead first.
What if we were just replacing a boiler that went down? And
Yes.
we had to put that down. How can you not count the cost of the boiler into the savings? I mean, there would be no way, if you're just replacing it, you're not gonna get any savings out of that because you're doing the same thing that you were.
Yes.
So I don't see how you can separate the materials out of that.
Sure. Or operational costs.
Operational
as well.
costs.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can separate that.
Yes.
So is this the type of meeting where I can raise my hand and speak?
Yes.
All right, just making sure. Ken Davis, Military Future, not here as a consultant for anything other than I am an electrician and superintendent and run major projects like hospitals, Microsoft data centers, from what I understand, from what you guys are just overhearing, I deal a lot with the hospital world. Like I'm doing 2 hospital projects right now. We call it capital savings. You know, the energy efficient and the LED lighting. Yes, it's an upfront cost, but you have to take into account, like, if you had 3 maintenance guys, but this new system only requires 1 maintenance guy, you had 2 guys you could repurpose or lay off, that's on you, you know what I'm saying? But that overall capital expense is gonna go down. You have to, I don't understand how the lawyers, the only time I've ever ran into this where the lawyers are talking about legislation is when we've had to prove for state funding. I don't know if you guys have to do that either. But when we had to prove for state funding, we've had to prove efficiencies, utility costs only, not overhead, people, none of that kind of stuff. But if this is your money to spend, I don't know how you couldn't incorporate the savings of your capital. If you're gonna pay, your bills are gonna be less, your maintenance is gonna be less, all that, you would take all that into account. And all the major hospitals do. The
So-
staffing and filter replacement, whatever the difference is, whether it's plus or minus, either it's gonna cost you more in the long run or save you. You gotta figure both sides in.
So-
Not just like your electric bills will be less. The utility costs are gonna be your savings for efficiency, but you also have your savings, capital savings.
So the question though, on construction contracts, when you are figuring out the ensuring the savings, if that is in fact what they're saying we need to do you normally see as a norm that operational costs are included in figuring out the savings?
Yes, usually, as long as it's not considered state money where you have to prove. I mean, your return on investment is, your ROI is gonna be your long term, if it takes 20 years that you've saved enough money to actually pay for the project.
Right.
You have to account for all expenditures, or all savings.
And
not
that's
just
what that
efficiency.
does?
Yeah, but I mean, it's harder, the reason they don't put it this on the state side, the only thing that's for sure is efficiency savings. If you have a boiler that's running at 0 efficiency, you put a boiler in that's 50% efficient, you're gonna have 50% savings per year. They can't account for what you're gonna do with your maintenance department.
Right.
So that's the unforeseen, that's the part that you typically won't put in the contract because they don't know what you're gonna do on the capital level with that. The only thing they can guarantee for sure is the savings on the efficiency side.
So when the operational costs are included, that's not the manpower and stuff. That's the actual function of the unit.
That's your operating cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you want to incorporate everything globally, is your savings from like, that's what we do at a capital level, it's the savings and it's across the board, anything that's a plus or minus, it goes in that column.
Okay.
On the lawyer side, I don't really understand that totally, because I mean, if you have a machine that takes 2 people to run, and you replace it with a machine that takes 1 person to run,
They
that's
get
the savings.
Okay.
And to be fair, when Graham and I talked about the operational side of it, he was unsure where GRP got their numbers from because it didn't come from me or from Mike or anybody like that. So he's under the impression that GRP is using hypothetical, knowing the equipment we have, hypothetical operational costs.
Okay.
They can't confirm that in fact that is, I'm sorry, 289 this year. They don't know for a fact, but that's why it's stipulated. So.
Okay.
I think that's what the lawyers,
Yeah.
Mr. Pat mentioned, is that's pretty speculative. I mean, you know, just pulling numbers out.
Out of the air.
I don't think
Yeah.
Kenny's
Right.
saying that.
Well, like you said, the only true number
Are-
is the efficiency number.
Are you saying that,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
because I thought what you were saying, the lawyers are saying that you cannot include operational costs.
Right, I believe there's.
GRP says you include operational costs in your savings over 20 years.
Yes.
Right.
Is that what you were saying, or are you
Yes.
agreeing with the lawyers that you don't include it?
No, you include in your capital savings, it's actually money that's gonna stay in the bank, because you're not spending it, so that's a savings. That would count towards your return on investment. The problem that the lawyers, from where I'm sitting, I think the problem the lawyers are saying that they don't know what that's gonna be. There's an industry average.
no,
If
we-
you replace your units.
Right.
There's an industry average of operational cost savings, that's what GRP is going off of.
But what I'm asking
Yeah.
you, then again, is from the construction standpoint, In these contracts, do you include operational costs or not?
Yes.
You do.
And he said they
That's
use
what I'm
industry
saying.
standard. Because
Yes,
everyone's
that is
different, they can't-
industry
Right.
standard, while the lawyers are saying it's not.
It's not, on the lawyer's end, it's not because it's too hard to measure.
Okay.
Right? If it was
But-
stamped and sealed from,
Right.
then you're.
The
But the-
liability,
but-
they're not gonna take that liability, they're
Right.
It's an identity, liability.
I understand.
Right, like Juan said, it's.
But
pulling
I'm
numbers
saying
out of
that
the
in
air.
construction, is
Yes,
this
in
what
construction.
typically happens, that you say this is the operational cost included in the savings?
Yes.
Okay.
And where it
So
falls
that was
back
two
on
different-
us is
Yes.
if in X amount of years, let's say in 20 years, we look back at this plan, yeah, I'll probably still be alive in 20 years. So if we look back at this plan in 20 years, and if we didn't actually meet the stipulated costs, we can go back and say,
You can't go back on the company.
correct, because that's what the legislation allows
You
you to
said,
do.
yes.
Yeah, correct. The
Yes.
legislation allows you to go back at X amount of time
Yeah.
and say, your stipulated savings did not occur. You owe us, we only saved 5.3, you owe us $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the one part where there's a concern on your guys' end, is if in fact you went back and said, let's look at the project,
Yes.
and whether or not it saved us.
But that could be a million what ifs, because right now, we don't even have air
True.
conditioning, so we don't know what that's gonna cost. We could have a polar vortex again, and we use so much heat, it goes, I mean, I'm just saying, like, if we
No.
wouldn't play the what if game, I mean, we could
But
sit
we
here
do
all
know that the
night.
split system is more efficient by far than what we have. We do know that. Oh, okay, so first item, by previous board set who already had this performance contract included with operational costs with the precision contract, the previous board has approved that. Also on the faith that, knowing that this is through GRP saying that this is a norm, a standard in construction, that this is how it is written, I am comfortable with moving forward with the contract from that. This does not mean that we're done talking about the HVAC. This is solely on the contract. That's what I want to know right now. All right, Larry?
I think it should be included, yeah.
Okay, the operational cost should
Yeah.
be, okay. So you agree with GRP Weckman that it's fine? Ashley?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
past practice, and we have a whole sheet of everybody around it, I mean, it's
Yeah.
what, an industry standard.
Jan?
Yes.
Juan?
I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence, you know, it's for our protection, that's why we have attorneys.
Yeah.
Right, I just can't believe they cannot come to some type of agreement, even if it's a compromise on the number.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, why is GRP holding real firm to that?
Right.
And we're holding real firm to this? We can't come to some type of agreement. Makes me wonder, maybe those numbers, maybe they can't meet those numbers, I don't know.
Well, the lawyers aren't gonna come with any number. They're not gonna take that liability. So it's not that they're not matching on the numbers,
Yeah.
it's the verbiage.
Right.
They're
It's gonna be
saying, we are not taking this liability no matter what. It could be $1, it could be $10,000, it could be $10 million. It's the way it's worded. It has nothing to do with the money.
It's with or
it's the
with not
verbiage.
operational costs, and you cannot prove $5.8 million in savings without operational costs. That's the bottom line. If you put a light bulb in and it says that you're gonna save this on LED versus normal wattage 60, but you know what? It's gonna, the operational cost of the light bulb are included, guys. It's on the box.
Right.
Ron, what do you think?
Listen, here's my thought. I know I read it, and you know, some of it, you know, go back and listen. I like I said, everybody knows I'm for the project. I'm for what's in that contract. The lawyers gave their opinion. Our superintendent laid the foundation, you know, between them. That's who mediates everything. So I'm for the contract to move forward.
Okay.
Did the attorneys give any alternate verbiage that they would prefer?
So the answer is no. Going back and forth, they said they had a problem with section 4, and so when GRP asks for what their preference would be, they never really gave them any, besides the fact of saying that.
They just want it gone.
Well,
They're just like, hey, I ain't put my hand on it.
Besides the
But you
idea
need that according to legislation also.
Expected versus stipulated, that was kind of where they went back. But according to Scott and GRP, because I sat in some conference calls with them, and I sat in conference calls with the lawyers, but for some reason they weren't willing to get together. No, there wasn't a way for that to there wasn't a mutual come together.
But,
let's figure it out.
and you need this clause when you're working with schools.
It's in legislation.
It's
You
in
have to have
legislation.
stipulated-
And all of these schools agreed in this legislation as it is set forth by GRP.
Yes, ma'am.
And the state hasn't complained about any of those.
Yes.
So it's not
Okay.
like we're setting a precedent.
Right.
Right.
We're
We're not.
following what's already out there.
No. And 2016 board has already agreed to it. So there's that. Brandy?
I mean, I don't think that we're doing this project to say that we expect a certain amount of stipulated savings over the next 20 years. We're doing this project now because we need our boilers and our HVAC and our schools functioning properly. I don't know that it's necessarily getting down to the nitty gritty of verbiage,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
And I would say that it's more about what needs to be done rather than what's it gonna look like in another 20 years.
Okay. So it's an agreement then to move ahead with the contract for that. Now, though, on the HVAC topic, do we have any resolving questions?
Just real quick, a lot of people, there was people that ran, and we were all gonna talk about building a school, right?
Yeah.
So we know that the junior high cost somewhere in the $20 million range, wasn't it, correct?
What was the bond
15.
for?
20? The junior
Yeah, the junior high. 10.
Ten.
Yeah, 20 sounded a lot.
That was,
That
that was
was like
not
20
with,
years ago, right? 15 years ago?
so the bond was one thing, but I thought they also took from
There was a
reserve.
cash bond with that as well.
Okay.
So,
So wait, the bond was 10,
The working cash
working cash.
was
So
separate from the building.
the
that was
total
10.
of the junior high
Right,
was 10.
correct.
With
It was
the working
7.8
cash.
and then
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Got it.
Okay, thank you.
$10 million.
$10 million.
So that was for one school, right? So
In the
if you-
smallest school.
So if you.
That doesn't get
Let me reword this so that I don't throw everybody out. So you got $25 million to say, if you want to rebuild 3 schools, right? Because our schools are supposedly aging and, right, but if you spend 5.8, you still save 19.2 off of the schools. And here's the thing, in the long run, the kids have ventilation, they have AC, our staff has it, the school can move forward. So I have no problem with that as long as, and everybody knows my feeling, as long as we don't lose teachers, that's it. And I got that answer already, so.
Yes, yes and no.
So if I may reiterate a few important things, so
Absolutely.
it's clarified one more time. And by the way, thank you for using the word you used. This is not an air conditioning project. This is
Correct.
not air conditioning.
Thank you.
Correct.
I want to make that abundantly clear to everybody when you go to vote for this on Monday, whether you're for it or against it. This is not air conditioning. This is HVAC. This is air conditioning, ventilation, and heating. These room units provide the heat to the 2 rooms. The only boiler that still exists would be at the high school, providing heat to the new area of the school. The boiler plant is gone. So there's no boiler part to this project except for the small part of the high school. The units themselves are the heating, are the air, are the ventilation. So I want to make sure everybody knows. Again, we've had people come in and say, well, it's an air conditioner. It's not. It's all 3 of those. And to answer your question again, this is completely separate than the issue we're facing with the levy. It's apples and oranges.
Right.
I know it happens at the same time, and it's very easy to draw that conclusion that A equals B. That's not the case here. It's completely separate from what we're facing as a district.
Yes. The levy is a very important conversation and it's going to be had, just like, others. And that's also what I want to point out. So the question was asked about the boilers, just the boilers being fixed. Juan, you brought that up. And you saw the email, I'm sure. It's $1 to $1.5 million per school to get them where they need to be. And that does not take into account the, what are those called in each room? Radiators, right?
Yeah.
Those being fixed. And those, as you know, have coat hangers in them, as Mr. Stanula has mentioned. So those also have to be fixed. So we're looking at $3 million just with the boilers, then more for the radiators, stuff like that. But with this project, it fixes it all. And you can't do this project and just the heat when the air is right there. And now we're looking at, well, now there's splitting the labor. And as we talked about, it's best to like do that in one shot when you have the manpower. The other thing somebody brought up is pre-COVID prices, right? So I looked into that as well. 10% less pre-COVID. Now it's only going to go up. That's kind of the world we're in if you look at the shipping containers. Now we have the ESSER grant now. We have to use that money.
And
We
you
have
can't use it
used.
just- You can't use that just for boilers.
You can't use that just for
Well,
boilers,
yeah,
am I
you
correct?
could.
It does,
could.
it does?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're
I
allowed
thought
to
that
use
didn't
the
work with
six-
the ventilation.
No, the 600 and some thousand you're allowed, you're thinking of life safety. The 631,000 some change that we can use for ESSER 3 can actually be any building project that you have.
Okay.
But it's one, as I presented to you before, it's a $5.8 million project. We can get reimbursed from the federal government at 600,000.
Thanks for
So it's 5.2. No
Yes.
problem. You're referring to life safety. I have to have things to be on life safety for us to use the life safety, the fire prevention fund.
Gotcha. And we also can mark off so many things on that life safety audit.
I was gonna say
with this.
approximately how many items would be off of that life
Well,
safety?
electric.
I don't have it off the top of my head. Mike, I did have Mike email me and then I forwarded it to you guys. He actually went through the life safety and it actually says HVAC on that project. I'll find it
Yeah.
and forward
Alright.
it to you guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it,
That's all
when,
right.
and
No.
my point, and I am open for discussion on this, I wanna, I want us all to understand each other and everything, and that's why I've spent this time looking at all options. I wanted to see what this cost difference was. Well, we have the ESSER 2, or 3. I didn't mean to say 2, I meant TOO also. Anyways, and then what the things that we are, taking off from the life safety audit, from just health issues among the kids, where I know this is a huge project. And in the project, I see why this has been pushed off so many years. I really do now, because it is a lot. It is a lot of intimidation. It is a lot of thinking. I am not taking one thing of this lightly, and that's why I've researched absolutely everything that has to do with this. And when it comes down to it, the way that I'm seeing it, it is the best use of fiscally responsible for the district money when it comes to future spending on our bills, for one, because it's gonna look so much better. When it comes to cutting down on those issues that we have to fix, when it comes to so many things, this 5.8 million and the split system and the everything, it's really a game changer for our schools. I've tried since I've been on this board to rationalize the fact that we need to build new buildings. I thought, bright-eyed, I was coming in, we're gonna build some new buildings, it's gonna be great. We can't. We literally can't, unless we wanna go into debt. I guess we could try to figure some way, not without being responsible and raising taxes. And we need to keep the priorities where we need to keep the priorities. Not raise taxes, but give our kids the best, and staff the best environment. And that's all, after all my research I've done from everything that everybody's brought up, that's where I stand. Any comments, discussion?
No, I agree also. If you look at, I feel that the time for, doing this in phases or projects would have been great, if we started that a couple of years ago. But really, we're kind of at this do or die point where our boilers are failing, our kids aren't getting heat. We unfortunately have to move forward. Is it the best time to move forward? Who knows? We can second guess ourselves all day long. But what I do know, kind of working in a fairly related industry, I spent a couple days last month talking to suppliers and manufacturers, and they said that the supply chain issues are not going to get any better. It's going to get worse before it gets better, and if we lock ourselves into a price, then GRP Wagman is assuming all of that liability for prices going up, for labor rates going up, and they're taking that on where we're locked into this project for this price. Now, if we were to wait until we fix the levy or we do something else, who knows what those prices, those labor rates are going to be in the future, because it's gonna rise and then it's gonna plateau.
Well, it's
That's
gonna be
what
a
it
couple
is.
$1 million more right off the bat because we have to fix the boiler.
Right.
So
That's gonna
we can
happen
put a
regardless.
Band-Aid on that and then we
No.
can add more money.
3,
Yeah.
could be 3
Yeah.
million.
And that's just a
immediately.
Band-Aid, which
Doesn't upgrade electric.
maybe 2 years, maybe, those boilers are how old? They're on their last leg.
Yeah,
They've been Band-Aid for
A long time.
No, go ahead.
30 years.
And that's just, we keep saying you want to be, fiscally responsible. I don't see how doing that is. Because it's just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. The problem's still there. That's the same thing where we have to fix the levy to fix the problem. We need to quit putting Band-Aids on things. We need to fix them right.
Yes.
That goes back to what.
So that it's set up for the future.
My good friend Karen Scrimeni said when she was on the board, we can't keep putting Band-Aids on problems.
That's right.
And so I think the benefits outweigh the negatives, and I think that our staff and our students, and I think our district in a whole benefits from this.
Absolutely. I really do. And not to mention, you're right on the district as a whole. I mean, we have a lot of different things that the whole community comes into these schools for. And holy cow, I mean, it can be very uncomfortable. And I know this isn't the main point of the project, but we are Beecher proud. And when you're sitting in it, like I was at open house at the junior high, it was 86 degrees in there. I mean,
Look, Julie, just the bottom line to this whole facility staff, everybody, I think it benefits the whole. And I think the little bit of verbiage today, I think was just a hiccup, but I think
I agree.
at the end of the day, it just benefits our district, it benefits our community.
okay. So moving, are there any questions, any other questions? What we need right now is, number one, we said we would move with the contract. Number two, I need to talk, because the full board's here, but to the committeemen, if you would like to bring this to the full board for a vote.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm all for the project. To me, the money is a big issue. I'm a little more conservative than most. I would like to see something done with that levy, so that way we're just not kicking the can down the road as far as fixing our financial problem. But you guys got enough votes to pass it anyway. So.
Okay. All right. And it's going to the board.
Do you mind if I add something that's not on the agenda, the meeting I had today?
I guess, Jack.
No, I met with Doug Bright today, great meeting. We have a timeline in place for the elementary school bathrooms to start, so we're gonna get that bid out, and
That's
December
great.
you'll have bids in front of you.
Wonderful. Oh, that's exciting. Awesome. Okay. Any other public comment?
No public comment. So please note when you talk to the lawyers about what the public can and can't talk about during the committee meetings, note that this community, this person is concerned about free speech. You as board members will determine what is and it is not related, and can anticipate what is and won't be talked about. I would like to say that the boilers won't be all new. They're reusing the system in some areas. So continuing on, have you considered if there is an influx of migrant children, federal passing of universal preschool, or students returning back to school after remaining at home due to pandemic-related issues such as mask wearing, what space will you use? I'm not advocating for a new school, but the board retreat on August 30th, 2021 basically considered only two options, a new school or AC, and that's how it was referred to. Nothing in between or even in addition to the junior high school. When will you have the money to perform those remaining projects on the principal's wish list, which you never even discussed as a board? This comes back to there is no strategic and comprehensive plan. I think you owe it to the community, employees, students, parents, and stakeholders to be thorough in your discussions, decision-making, and planning as you go forward as a board, especially you're spending so much of the reserves.
Sure.
I think that, because that's referring back to when I said the wish list.
Yep,
Okay?
and you can go for it.
Can you state it again?
No, hold on.
Yeah.
Please, let's keep. But, I said all the principals at the
Yeah.
time, right? And the wish list doesn't go to me, okay? It goes, so when people use my name in the last meeting, okay, I'm getting a lot of drawback, guys, for some of the stuff that's being said. And not that I care, okay? But let's get the facts straight. When I say a wish list, since I've been on this board, it's been about staff, students, and things, okay? And if that's what their wish list is to our superintendent and at the time was Cox and Stanula, that's their wish, okay? And I'm gonna stand behind it, okay? So I did ask for a wish list. Juan, you at the last meeting, you did. I did ask for that wish list. That wasn't to say, hey, stop this project for this. This is what the principals know. They work in these buildings. I'm not here. I don't walk in these buildings every day. So my name was invoked, and I'm probably a little flat for it.
What? It's a wish and a hope and a dream. I have lots of those too.
Yeah, my
Every day
kids-
when I walk into my classroom.
Yeah.
I
My
don't
kids
know what
have a
happened.
wish list for
Right.
Christmas. They don't know that they get.
But when it says,
So do I.
when it says when Ron's, when my name is invoked in it,
Yeah.
Which was wrong.
no, but it's okay, it's okay.
But I would like to say that the way that it was discussed at the board retreat, we discussed and we decided that there are priorities in this district that we need to pay attention to. And that is how we all came to the agreement that we are going to pay attention to the priorities of the district for the betterment of the kids and the staff in the district.
And that
So
new
there
buildings
is
were
nothing
not
that was
fiscally
ignored.
responsible.
There is nothing that was, not done
And I'm not saying
according
that,
to
Julie.
plan.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying that, just my name was revoked,
Yeah.
and I just, you know,
Yeah.
when you start
Sure.
thinking about it, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It was-
And I'm proud of this board because I feel that we have a very clear set vision. We have communicated all of this and are following our goals and working together in a very clear fashion. So I'm proud of us and I think we should keep going with that. Yeah, okay. That being said, I need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's just they're giving me an update of what they're looking at legislation-wise.
I don't care. I get emails like that every day. Well, I'm sure you do.
I get one or two. I'm sorry?
What happened on the roof?
So, yeah, so what we found out the latest, we haven't made them by, but the latest
She needs to
concern,
stop that.
which was Sheila's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
This is Black. Oh, you stopped
It's
recording.
correct.
Thank
When
you.
they fixed them, they,
Thank you.
Thanks.
put the flashing down, the flashing, the old flashing, was a little longer.
Did